Hello everyone. So I took a bit of a break unexpectedly. If you have been around on my channel for any amount of time, you probably aren't all that surprised. This is kind of my MO. I had to take some time away because of just the usual self-doubts, burnout, imposter syndrome, and the biggest case of uncertainty that I have ever felt. And so I just wanted to film something to let you guys know that I'm not dead and to just kind of talk about what's been going on and what I've been working on. And I feel like I need to preface this by saying, like, I know I'm not the only person that has the thoughts that I have or feels the way that I feel when it comes to being a writer. This is going to be kind of a self-pitying vlog. So bummer alert, I guess. Be prepared for just me kind of complaining and being a whiner. But like I said, I know I'm not the only person that feels like this, so this isn't me being like, you know, oh, woe is me, life is so bad for me, feel sorry for me. You know, that's not what this is. I just have gone a month without posting anything, and I really do like YouTube. I really like having a YouTube channel, so this is me trying to break myself out of my funk, get back into the swing of things, and yeah. So I'm not in the best headspace right now when it comes to writing, and it all started with a writing contest. Back in March, I entered this romantasy writing challenge, and it went on for like 2 weeks, and there was a word count limit of 2,000 words. You had to write a short story that featured this list of prompts that they gave us, and touching on like a particular theme that they gave us. And it cost money to enter, but it wasn't a lot, and I thought, you know, I've never written romantasy before. This might be fun. I might learn something. So I entered. And it was a lot of fun. I wasn't super thrilled with the idea I came up with, but I only had 2 weeks. And so I went, and I enjoyed my characters, because characters, they're my favorite part of writing. Like, I love coming up with characters. I love writing character interactions. I've always said that creating and writing characters is my favorite part of writing. And I'm an overwriter, so the 2,000 word limit, and it was a hard limit, you could not go over. That was difficult for me, but I did it. I killed my darlings. I condensed my story to under 2,000 words, and I felt really good about it. I wasn't like, you know, frothing at the mouth with how good it was, but I remember when I submitted it, I didn't think I would win, but I thought, would be cool to place, you know? Would be cool to say, like, hey, I entered this contest and now you can find my short story on their website. You can't, because I didn't place. There was over 1,000 stories that were submitted. They chose 10 winners, and I was not one of those 10. In fact, of the 3 rounds of judging, I did not make it past the first round, which really sucks. And I'm not sitting here, you know, arrogant enough to say, oh, I should have won. I should have won first place. At the very least, I should have won third place. You know, I'm not saying I should have won. It wasn't the loss that made me feel bad. It was when I went and I read all the winning stories for this contest. These stories were so good. We were all given the same prompts, obviously, and the way these authors tackled them was so unique and creative. They had ideas and plots that I could have never even conceptualized. My small, pea-sized brain could have never in a million years come up with the ideas I was seeing in these short stories. And it wasn't just that they had these unique ideas, they were all well written. They were so well written. And I had to kind of admit that I don't have that kind of creativity. It was like I had to finally look in the mirror, basically, and looking at my story after reading all of the winning stories. It was so boring and formulaic, and it was pathetic how literally I took the prompts, and seeing how other authors took those same prompts and just made wonderful, amazing stories out of them sent me into a spiral. I have kind of accepted that my autism has held me back in a lot of ways. I failed a lot of my classes, namely math and science classes. I just have never been able to wrap my head around certain things. I failed math so many times, it's not even funny, and I failed chemistry twice, and I needed a chemistry credit to graduate, and because I kept failing chemistry, they finally made me start taking a bunch of smaller science classes that were only worth like half a credit each. So I had to take like 4 different science classes to make up for the chemistry credit. And I don't think I'm stupid. It's just kids aren't a monolith. They don't all learn the same way. And the public school system is kind of a joke. And I was undiagnosed, to everyone there. I was just normal, I was just like every other kid, except I was stupid because I was failing. And so school sucked. And then getting out of school, I didn't really have many skills. And so finding a job was very difficult. So school, job, and then socially, autism has affected me the most socially. I struggle to make friends. I struggle to keep friends. I am so afraid of embarrassing myself that I would rather just avoid social interaction, and it really sucks. I would love to have writing friends, and I have gotten so many opportunities to talk to people I've met on YouTube who are great, who are awesome, and they reach out to me, and I drop the ball. I mess everything up because I don't know how to be social, and I panic, I avoid people, and I just mess everything up, and then I don't have friends, And so, like I said, being autistic has held me back in a lot of ways. And the friend thing really sucks because I would love to have a group of writer friends. I would love to organize a writing retreat with those writer friends, and I can't because people reach out to me and I get overwhelmed and I shut down, and it sucks. And my fiance, he's always trying to encourage me to go and hang out with the few friends that I have because he knows I don't really have a lot of friends, and it's hard to make him understand why I'm scared of people because it doesn't even make sense to me. So, like I said, being autistic has held me back a lot. And writing was always like the thing I thought was sacred. It was the one thing my autism couldn't touch. I was going to say couldn't infect, but that sounds really dramatic. I flunked so many of my classes. I did not amount to anything, really, and have no skills, no talents, no nothing, and I always thought writing was my thing. And obviously it is to a certain degree. I love writing, and I think I understand a lot of the technical aspects of writing. It's just the creative aspects, I guess, that give me trouble. So it has just been really hard in me questioning whether or not I have the talent to do what I want to do. And it's like having to kind of face the fact that my dream is kind of dead in the water because I don't know what to do right now. So I've just not been in a good headspace, and I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, if I wasn't autistic, I would be the best author around. I would be an award-winning author. I would be J.K. Rowling levels of famous just without the transphobia, because that's not true. And I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to blame all of my problems on autism, but clearly it has some level of blame, I guess, some level of fault with how I've turned out as a person, because if I was not autistic, my life would look a lot different than it does now. And whether or not that's bad or good, I'm not, I've made a really nice life for myself with my fiance. So I'm not saying I regret life. Oh, I wish I was normal. I wish I could go back in time. I'm not saying any of that, because my fiance and I have carved out a really, really nice life for ourselves, and I appreciate what I have. Sometimes I think, man, I love my life. I'm glad I never, when I was a kid. So I'm not saying that I would take any of this back. I'm very happy with my life right now, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't sometimes consider how things might have turned out if I wasn't autistic. All that to say, I spiraled, had to face a lot of uncomfortable truths about myself, and then I also realized that I had become disillusioned with the romance genre. So romance is my favorite genre. I love it. I don't see myself ever not loving it. It's just the genre I've always enjoyed the most when it comes to both reading and writing. Although it's funny because I don't really like romance movies, but when it comes to books, I will always go for romance first. And maybe this is my fault for being on TikTok, but it seems like in romance and in publishing romance, the only thing that really matters is what's trendy, what's popular right now, what tropes can you use to market your book. And I know it's like that, for a lot of other genres, but spicy romance in particular is all about tropes and what's hot. And what's hot changes. Like, I swear, it's like every week something new is trending. And romance authors are basically just rushing to follow the trends because that's what's going to get them the clicks, that's what's going to get them the money. I mean, I feel like, do authors in other genres even do like the whole rapid release thing? Because that feels very specific to romance. But yeah, it's just been kind of disheartening, I guess, to see what the romance genre has kind of turned into. And it's always been looked down on, but then certain things become popular. And then there's just constant infighting when it comes to romance fans, whether it's like closed door versus open door or romance versus dark romance, whatever. There's always infighting. There's always trends. There's always people that hate those trends. And it's just hard. Like, the romance genre is such a loud and kind of obnoxious place to be. And like I said, it all comes down to what's trendy and what's popular. And I write what I like, but I find when I'm writing it that I am trying very hard to sell these books before they're even finished. I have like a checklist of tropes and things that readers like, and I'm trying to include them all because that's what sells, and I don't want to do that. So that kind of was a roadblock that I came up across, and I had the story that I wanted to work on for the month of May. I had started calling it Project Hallow. It was about a demon. It was going to be really fun. I did all the story work. I have all the scenes plotted out, and I brainstormed the first chapter, and I sat down to write it, and I just wasn't feeling it because, like I said, I have that checklist, and I was asking myself, will this work? Will this work? Is this too dark? Is this not dark enough to be a dark romance? And I was essentially trying to market it before I'd even started writing it, and so I shelved that project. And I did read quite a bit in the time that I've been gone. I have read 5 books. 4 of them were mysteries/thrillers, and 1 was a horror novel. I'm not gonna call them out because I wasn't terribly impressed with most of them, and it would just feel kind of shitty to say, hey, check out this 2-star read, But I've been having fun reading stuff that's outside of my normal genre. I tried to read some romance books, but it feels like now when I read a romance within the first chapter, I can just tell that this person is just trying to follow what's popular, and it takes me out of the story. But that put me on the path of mystery, I guess. So I have been writing a mystery novel. I'm not terribly comfortable writing mystery. I played around with it a little bit in high school, but it wasn't my favorite genre back then. And I feel like there's like hundreds of books on the craft of writing romance, but I was looking for how-to books on writing mystery, and I have found very, very few. So kind of winging it. But my project, I'm calling it Project Pocket Knife because titles are hard. And it's basically about a woman that has to return home to the small town she grew up in because her mom died, and she has a much younger sister that she has to kind of take care of. And while she's there, a murder happens, and she kind of has to face things from her past while, also the town is trying to figure out who killed this person. I'm still kind of figuring it out as I go. And like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of writing a mystery, but I'm having fun with it, and it's just been nice to take a break and do something different. I will say, though, I will always be a romance girl at heart because I introduced a love interest, because in a mystery, I feel like that's the best thing you can do because you have your character fall head over heels for somebody, and then that somebody ends up being like kind of shady and suspicious, and your main character now has to question if they're a dangerous person or not. Like, are they a killer? And I think that really ups the tension. So I introduced this love interest, and my favorite scenes that I've written so far have all been scenes between her and the love interest. So again, I'm a romance girl at heart. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I would love to have come on here, and talked about all the great things I have accomplished in the time I was away, or say that I have been hard at work on the next draft of Tilda's book, but I've basically just been reading and playing video games, and past 2 weeks, I think, I've been working on my mystery. So I plan on finishing Project Pocket Knife because I don't want to leave off and, leave it unfinished. And once I'm finished with that, I want to work on the second draft of Tilda's book because I would like to get it finished, not just the second draft, get all the drafts finished and post it on Substack before the end of the year. Don't think that's going to happen, but that's my goal. And it sucks because I just really wanted this year to be my year. I wanted to self-publish all these romance stories. I wanted to get my name out there. I wanted to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which obviously at this point I don't think will ever happen. You know, I just really wanted to succeed and achieve some things, and I just don't think it's for me. I don't think my brain is wired the right way to do these things. So it is what it is. Oh, and I've had wedding planning stuff on top of all of that. And that's been very fun and not stressful at all. So yeah, I'm sorry that I disappeared again. I'm sorry that I'm so flaky and not good at being a friend. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your support always. I wish I was better at this sort of thing, but it kind of just feels like I'm always just winging it and hoping I don't embarrass myself. And I'm trying to not be so self-pitying, but I think sometimes I just need a stretch of time where I'm allowed to feel like shit, I guess. So maybe my next video will be all about Project Pocket Knife and where I'm at and what I'm doing. It would be cool to maybe just film one vlog of me finishing this draft, and then I can get back to Tilda's book and work on the second draft of that. But yeah, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. I'm trying to get back to vlogging and writing and all of that. And I'm sorry if this is a boring video, like I said, just a sit down, update, chatty video, you know. So I don't know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video, and yeah, like I said, I know I'm not the only one that feels the way that I feel, so if you want to commiserate in the comments below about imposter syndrome or uncertainty, you know, just let me know, and yeah, again, thank you so much for watching.